Welcome to Breaking the News Plus on this Wednesday night. Today marks 1 week since the horrible shooting at Annunciation Church and School in South Minneapolis. And I wanted to have a candid conversation with the City of Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey about this past week. And he joins us now on Breaking the News Plus. Mayor Frey, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start by asking you where you were, what you were doing when you heard about what happened last Wednesday morning.
I was actually on the phone with the chief when the news first came through on the radio. But as is often the case when you get briefings, the first news is not the last. You get additional information. And so 20 minutes later, I was in the car. The chief was briefing me on what was taking place, and very quickly it became apparent that this was not just any shooting, not to minimize shootings in general, but this was a school and church shooting, and we were on our way down to Annunciation. But even then, you don't know the scope of it. You don't know the nature of the tragedy. And so what was becoming immediately apparent is we were going to need to deploy every available resource to help people in need and making sure that we're implementing a full emergency management plan in real time. And so this stuff is heavy, though. I remember getting down there, jumping out of the car, running to a direction I wasn't really sure where entirely I was going. And I remember seeing this dad who was carrying his approximately 2-year-old kid like a football under his arm. He was wearing flip-flops, and so he kicked those flip-flops off so he could run faster. And I remember he gave me this look, which was basically like, what can you tell me about my kid who's in there? And it was one of those scenarios where I couldn't tell him much of anything at that moment, and it felt so impossibly awful. And since then, our city has been grieving. We are united in that grief, but we're also united in action. And this needs to be a galvanizing moment for change. It needs to be a moment where we are wrapping our arms around these families that are experiencing some of their most difficult moments in their entire life.
In those early hours, you addressed our city and in part our state, the nation, the world. And Mayor Frey, you struck me as angry when you were speaking.
I was experiencing, I think, a combination of sadness, of grief, and of course, anger. One of the things that is striking and awful in and of itself is the number of mayors that have reached out to me, having they themselves gone through some school or church shooting. And I find myself saying these words about how tragic and awful this situation is and how we can never allow something like this to happen again. And I'm clearly not the first mayor to say exactly those words. And I don't want another mayor from another city where even more families are impacted saying this in another 2 months from now. Thoughts and prayers are important, of course. They are a foundational element for so many people throughout our country. And thoughts and prayers are also not enough. They are a necessity, but they are not enough of them in and of themselves adequate. You need to go further, as you and I know the phrase Tikkun Olam, to save the world, to heal the world. It's not enough just to pray. We've got to attach some actions to the words to make sure that we're thinking about our kids and we're doing something for them. We should be thinking about these kids not just as somebody else's kids, but as our own kids, recognizing the very personal nature that this has for families throughout our city. And we got to be doing everything possible to help them, because they should be able to get up in the morning and go to school and play in the playground and mess around in the cafeteria and do all the things that kids do with the assurance that they're going to be safe. And parents should have the same assurance when they drop their kid off or they're getting them out the door in the morning.
I was at Annunciation the night before last, and as you have been there several times, each day the amount of flowers and sidewalk chalk and tokens of memoriam are there. And what struck me the last time I was there were two individual bouquets, and they were right next to each other. The first one was from Appalachia High School moms. They had this a year ago. And it was a card to the Annunciation parish, congregation, families saying, "We know what this is like. We are so sorry." The next bucket, yellow flowers, and all it said was, "We understand. Love, Uvalde."
Yeah.
So it keeps repeating itself.
And that's the frustrating part, is it's not as if the solutions are foreign to us. It's not as if we don't know what the solutions are, because they've been the same solutions 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 25 years ago, going back to, I imagine we're about the same age. When we were in high school, it was like Columbine. And other countries throughout the world have experienced these awful mass shootings. And they say, you know what? That was horrific. We're going to do something about it. And the something that they often do is they say, all right, ban on assault weapons. We should not have these kinds of guns in our communities that are literally built to kill high numbers of people, built to pierce body armor and flesh. You can ban these high capacity magazines that allow you to reel off 30 bullets before you reload. I mean, at the most basic and ugly level, it is a math formula. You know, they are shooting off more bullets in a very short period of time before an officer or somebody else is able to stop it from happening. And the more bullets you're able to shoot off, the more people you're able to kill. We're not talking about your father's hunting rifle here. We're not talking about deer and ducks. We are talking about preventing large numbers of people from being killed all at once, which is the most simplistic and basic thing that we should be able to assure people in our communities. And as mayor, you know, as mayors, plural, we are the ones that get the calls at 2 a.m. about yet another kid that has been gunned down. We are very close as an executive to our communities, and we've got this deep responsibility. I feel this weight of not allowing this kind of thing to happen again. And so there are answers. We're calling on those answers to be achieved and accomplished. And if the state and the federal government is either unwilling or unable to get it done, give us the authority to do ourselves so we can help our communities and keep them safe.
What if, however, I hear what you're saying, and I know you were joined by several city mayors yesterday asking to have city control over gun laws within your city, and that's one thing. I am curious, you've been in politics a long time, and from what I have heard from parents at this school, parents in this community, I don't know who they voted for. I don't frankly care. They are parents before they are a party. As to why we can't have a conversation that can be all-encompassing. And Speaker Demuth said she sort of edged towards the line that she was open to that. Why can't, as you cite Tikkun Olam, why can't we use 2 ears and 1 mouth, where you listen to your Republican counterparts and say, you know what, that's a good point too. It can't just be about guns. Or is it just about guns in your opinion?
It's not just about guns. And so, when I hear Republicans say, or anybody for that matter, say, hey, this is about mental health. They're right, it is about mental health. When I hear people say this is about guns, they're right. It is about guns. When I hear people say we need to be praying for the victims, God bless. Yes, let's pray for the victims because they just went through something horrific, and we can attach an action to it. We're not excluding the work that needs to be done, we also, to your point, should be listening. This is not about a hate for a party or a hate for any singular group of people. This is about a love for our children. Republicans love their children. I know that. Democrats love their children. This is this beautiful kind of uniting common humanity theme, perhaps more than anything else ever in the history of human beings. Let's love our kids first, and let's find a way to help them. And that could include mental health. And if Lisa Demuth is looking to do the mental health work, and we can also get the gun reforms, that is spectacular, and it's a huge win for the people of our state.
You've been in politics, Mayor Frey, for some time. To be honest with you, after Sandy Hook, when nothing changed, it's hard to not be cynical. But now we're in the city. You and I are in the city where the ribbons are on the trees and you know the families and you've heard their stories. Could we be a state that listens more than it talks and makes change?
Yes, we can be that state. We can be an example for so many others to follow. Doing nothing is not one of the options here. At least it shouldn't be. And so I've heard people that are pessimistic about the ability to truly make change here. And I'm not going to say that pessimism is not well earned, because certainly it hasn't happened in the past. But even if there's a 5 or a 10 or a 25% chance of getting something done here, we all got to get caught trying. We all got to make sure that we are doing everything possible to make this kind of change. And, by the way, this shouldn't be a super controversial item. And in fact, when you take politicians out of it, it ain't a super controversial item. The vast majority of people support a ban on assault weapons. I think it's something like 50% of Republicans support a ban on assault weapons.
So why hasn't it got done?
I can get into the different political machinations, and I'm sure I'm right on some of it and I'm wrong on some of it. But the bottom line is people can make a difference. One of the things that I love most about Minneapolis and Minnesota is that people believe they can make the change here. I've lived in other states. I've lived in other cities. As you know, I'm from the East Coast. It's not the same vibe there, perhaps because they're so close to DC. It's you can't possibly make a change unless you've got some sort of in. Here, people believe it, and it starts with a belief. It starts with the belief that we can make the change and we can get something done. And I know that we can. And by the way, we've got that obligation and responsibility to our kids. And we know what it is to have kids, and it is this complete perspective changer. And this morning I'm, getting up and pushing Frida out the door. You're throwing them a little bit of food. You're trying to get the shoes on, whispering or telling them a little something nice in the ear, maybe even not so nice, who knows? And it's like these little annoyances that you start to cherish. You start to recognize this is the most beautiful thing that I'm responsible for. And that responsibility is a greater title than my title as mayor. My title is dad. And we all can relate to something like that, and just pushing that to the front and center. Yeah, maybe we can get something done here. I believe it.
Yeah, I want to end kind of bringing that question back to the forefront, because you have a child that's 4 3/4 years old. I have a child that's 3 3/4 years old. There are children that before that mass last Wednesday know nothing of partisan politics or debates in Washington over the Second Amendment, or not even about the amendment, just about what can we do about guns in America to keep not just kids safe, but our police officers safe. They're running into that fire. And if we care about our first responders, let's have that conversation too, of all the things that we could do to make their job less dangerous by the day. So the kids, let's bring it back to the kids. Our kids don't know what happened last Wednesday. Most of them at that age don't. And it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I wouldn't think that we are trying to protect them and they don't even know what some in the world are working so hard to fight about or protect, but it's them that we're trying to protect. And they're still in this world of innocence. And can we agree on that? That Republicans that have kids are in a world of innocence and that Democrats are too, and that if everybody came to the table saying, let's just bring your child's photo with you, set it down next to you, and just stay focused.
I think that's the right strategy. You keep this focused on the kids. You keep this focused on how and what would I do best to ensure the safety of my child. I mean, this is not just somebody else's kids. This is not just some other foreign experience that is so distant from where we're at here. It happened in our city. Let's prevent it from happening in a different one.
So you don't have to be the next to send flowers to the next city?
I don't want to have to call another mayor or text them with well wishes and to give them pointers on how to deal with one of the most horrific situations that their city has ever seen. Nobody should have to go through this, and they shouldn't need to. We have the ability to make a difference. Let's do it.
Mayor Jacob Frey, thank you for joining us on Breaking the News Plus tonight.
Thanks for having me, Jana.
That's all for us on this Wednesday night. Thanks for joining us.